Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Let's Get Social. Welcome to Let's Get Social. Happy Friday. Today we are going to be doing a DIY reversible bonnet. So, for those that don't know, September has been a month that has been dedicated to kind of using your scraps. And when I say using your scraps, like today, you are really going to see me what it looks like to use your scraps. And with that said, let me just show you. This is my bag of scraps that I have accumulated. And when I say scraps, I mean this is less than 1 yard. Like this is what you would call remnants. I don't even know if these qualify as remnants, but anyway, this is my bag of scraps. And I'm not going to say everything I'm sewing is coming out this bag, but I am definitely going through this bag of scraps, seeing how large things are to see like what can I do. And so today I have even sewn pieces of pieces together to kind of come up with what the fabric that I needed to sew this bonnet and the head wrap. Hi, Miss Alethea. Good evening. Welcome. Happy Friday. Thank you for joining. Um, Thank you, Swarin. Thank you for joining. Welcome. Thank you for all the likes. The likes help to notify people that we are here and we are sewing. So today we are going to be doing a DIY reversible bonnet. I'm going to talk to you about 2 ways to do the bonnet. And then we are also going to talk about and even sew a head wrap that can go on over top of the bonnet. This is, I think it's going to be fairly quick, even with all the things that we're going to talk about. As you can see, I have already done a version of the bonnet. So let me take off these glasses. Glasses become like a little headband, and then you got to wear it because once you push your hair back, that's it. It's over. But anyway, this is the bonnet that I've made. This is one version of the bonnet. And you can see, and we're going to talk about this version. This version has like the little ruffle. I don't know. I call it a little ruffle at the end. It's like the, traditional old school bonnet. So we're going to talk about this one, but we're also going to talk about one that if you're like not a fan of the ruffle, you feel like it's a little bit like for the kids or something like that, this is again an option. We're going to talk about this because you have choices, but we're also going to do what I like to call the traditional. Well, I don't know. I feel like this is the traditional younger person bonnet, kid bonnet, or whatever. But we're also going to talk about the bonnet that has the elastic at the very edge, so you don't have this ruffle piece. But whether you do the ruffle piece, whether you're a fan of the ruffle piece or you are a fan of just having it without the ruffle piece, you can choose to also add a head wrap on. So like this, what I like the head wrap for is maybe your hair is wrapped up, and pretend my hair is wrapped up, but you got to go out somewhere. And I'm not an expert at tying head wraps, so we're going to just pretend. But you could just, put this on there, cover those little bottom parts. And I did it so much better earlier when I was practicing, but you could cover this. Let me see if I do it right. And you could make something that you could potentially go outside in. Again, I'm not an expert at it, but you can definitely, I looked at a YouTube video and I did it right earlier today, but you could make it something that you could literally go outside with. So it's good to have the head wrap because maybe you want that extra security. Someone had said to me earlier, like, I just got a silk blowout, a silk press, and I got to preserve it. Definitely, if you need that extra security, the head wrap could go over top of your bonnet for that. Or you could just use the head wrap instead of, and put a little, what do you call it? You could put a little button on there with a strap to so you don't have any indentation on your hair. So you have options, but we're going to talk about how to do both of these things, and you can literally do them with scraps. When I tell you I did this with scraps, this fabric should look very familiar to you because I have used it to make skirts and tops, and this is literally the last of it. And so I used it to make this bonnet. You can't tell, but this is a combination of like 4 or 5 pieces that I just literally cut into squares. or rectangles and sewn together to get this 70 inches of fabric. Same thing with this side. I literally took pieces and sewed them together. Like if you look, see, I can't even find it myself somewhere. Oh yeah, here you go. If you look close enough, you can see. Same thing on this end somewhere. If you look close enough, you can see, but nobody should be looking that close to you to be able to see. So it's there, but again, it's great for scraps. So we're going to talk about that. So I did post. Hi, Kay. Welcome. Yes, and happy Friday. So I did post earlier what you need in order to be able to do this. There is no pattern. You really just need at least a 20. I think I put 24 by 24 inch, so a square of 2 pieces of fabric. Because this is a bonnet and we're talking about, or the potential to protect your hair. So not just something that you are going to wear outside, as a part of your outfit, but also something that you could go to sleep in at night. It is preferable that one of your pieces, at least one of your pieces, be either satin or silk or some type of satin like fabric. And so you can see that's what I have on the inside of this one. It is also reversible. So if for some reason you wanted to be able to wear this during the day, so again, you're not sleeping in it, you could wear it during the day and have the cotton on the inside if you were literally just wearing it during the day. So literally it is reversible, particularly if I was going to use this head wrap over top of it, because then you're covering that other part for the most part. And so if you wanted to go with something that was more, again, I'm not a great head wrap person, but you get the gist of it. You could definitely reverse it. So we are doing this in a way that it is completely reversible. So anyway, yes, you can use scraps in order to be able to do that. And I'm doing that today. So 24 by 24. If you are doing something for a kid, you can definitely use something smaller. This one is 22 by 22. So if you have a lot more hair or you're going to be covering up styles that are not just flat to your head, you definitely want to have some room, because this one it's got room in it, but it's not, it's not a lot of room. Like if I had a bun or something like that, probably not going to be able to wear it with that particular bonnet. Or if I had a lot more hair, probably not going to be able to wear it for that. But 24 by 24 is going to get us a pretty nice size bonnet. If you're doing something for a kid, I definitely think you can go to 20 by 20. I wouldn't go any lower than that, but well, if it's a baby, maybe. But if it's a young kid, 6, 7, 8, probably 20 by 20 is going to get you a nice size bonnet that's going to allow their ponytails or hair, or if it's a boy, their braids and stuff like that to be underneath of the bonnet without any difficulty. So you'll need that. You do need at least 20-inch piece of elastic. And I said either a 1/4 or a 1/2. This is a 1/4 or a 1/2. Either one will work. You need at least 20 inches, or if you don't want to measure it out, you could literally take from the bottom of your head, because literally where is the bonnet going to be? The elastic goes from the bottom of your head to the top. And so it would literally be this, your measurement of circumference of your head from bottom to top, and then -1 inch, just so you could so it doesn't just fall off your head. You have a little bit of stretch, but not too much. And so you need that. You need 2 safety pins, again, because we're going to be fishing that elastic through our little casing that we're going to make. And I think that's it. So 2 pieces of fabric, at least one, a silky type, satin or silk. If you want to use silk for your hair bonnet, either one of those would work. The fabric, both pieces, both the silky type of fabric and the cotton or whatever you decide to use on the outside, needs to be at least, I would say for a child, 20 by 20, and for adult, 22 to 24 by 24. You're going to be making a square. So, and then 2 safety pins, which we will use. So the first thing that you're going to do is take your fabric, and I've already cut my circle. So this is not a perfect square. This is, again, a piece of scrap that I had. So I'm just using this to show you how you are going to be creating your square to create the circle for your circle bonnet. So this is really in the same mindset of creating a circle skirt. So if you ever create a circle skirt, this is literally going to be the same concept. So literally what you're going to do is you're going to take your fabric and you are going to fold it in half like this. And so actually, you know what, let me do it the long other way. Well, it's going to be a square, so it doesn't matter. Mine is not a square, but so the first way you're going to do it is, and this is an easy way to remember, is to just fold it like you're closing a hot dog. So the long way. I guess it doesn't really matter so much because again, I don't have a square, but you should have a perfect square. And then you're going to close it again like a hamburger. So the short way, if that makes sense. So long way and then short way, long way this way, and then short way down. And then you're going to have a side that has all of the open ends on one side. And then you're going to have your side that has your fold on the other side. The side that has your fold is the side that's going to be kind of where you do your measurement. You're not going to cut this part. You're going to be cutting the side that has all of the open edges. So let me just say it one more time in terms of how you fold it, because you want to make sure that you have it right. So pretend this is a perfect square. Let me see if I fold it again and make it looks more like a square. Okay. So this is a square. This is my 24 by 24 inch. I'm going to fold it like a hot dog first, long ways. And again, it's not going to look long ways because it's a square. And then you're going to fold it again like a hamburger. So short ways. So you will have a side that has your folds on it. And then you're going to have an end that has all of your open, like where you're going to literally be able to see 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece, 4 piece. This side, you will not be cutting. This is the side that you're going to be cutting off when we make our circle. So now let's talk about how to make our circle. So you have your fold, you have your perfect, let's say your perfect square, your smaller square. So now I'm just going to open this back up and you're going to see. So this is, let me make sure I can show you right. Here and here. Okay. So you have one side that has your fold on it, your other side that has your open side. You're going to lay it down and let me position it so you can see. I'm going to push this down so you're able to see what I'm doing. And I'm actually going to push. Let me just share this screen. Add in this extra camera so you can see. Actually, you know what? It's probably faster just to do like this. Okay, here we go. So now you can see. So now you are going to take it and you are going to you're going to measure out from your folded end to your side that has all the folds on it. You're going to use, you also need a ruler. I didn't say that. I don't think I told you that part, but you do need a ruler or something that you can measure at least between 10 and 14 inches on, depending on the size that you cut your square. So you're going to take your ruler, you're going to put the edge of your ruler in the corner that has all the folds in it. You're going to take some type of marking utensil, so a piece of chalk or, you know, a soluble, you know, marker that dissolves with air or water, and you are going to mark that. You're going to mark it periodically all the way around the circumference from one edge of your fabric all the way to the other edge of your fabric. Now, the size that you mark it, again, is going to depend on the size of the bonnet that you want to make, because what we're marking now is we're literally getting ready to mark our circle that we're going to be cutting. So if you're doing something for a child, I would say, you know, mark at 9, 10. And then of course, if you're doing something for an adult, I would say you want to mark at between 11 and 15. Again, depending on the size, 11 and 14, let's just say. Obviously, the bigger that you go, the bigger that your circumference is, the bigger that your bonnet will be. So if you are doing something for like braids or longer hair or, then you want to make it a little bit bigger. If you're doing something that's going to be fairly flat to your scalp or very little bit of hair, then you can go with something smaller. But what you're going to do is you're literally going to mark it. And so I'm just showing in this example, I'm going to do something really little because this is a small square, but let's just say I'm marking this at 8, and I'm literally going to move this all the way around, keeping this corner, keeping the point of my ruler in this corner so that I can make sure that I am staying in that same, you know, circumference all the way around. And ultimately, what I'm doing is I'm creating a circle, and I'm going to mark this, and then I'll hold it up so you can see, you know, what it looks like. And then after you make all those little dashes, you'll just connect those dots. And let me just show you what that will look like. Hopefully you could see that with all this color, but this is me just making the dots. So I put the corner of my ruler here. I figured out, I marked this at, I don't know, I think I did 8 or so, but whatever you do, 8, 9, 10, you're literally going to do dashes all the way down. Again, keeping the corner of that ruler here and just periodically marking and then connecting all the dots. And so again, let me just show you this really closely. The corner of your ruler, number 1 should be here, and number, let's say 10, 11, 12 is up here. And then you're going to continue to move that ruler around and mark, make little marks all the way. And then you are going to, and then you're going to connect all of the dots all the way around. Raw and opinionated say, well, what about us big head folks? If you have a larger head, so the same rule applies in terms of if you have, you know, more hair, which is that if you have a larger circumference to your head, you want to go with a larger bonnet, because where the circumference of your head really matters is with how you are adjusting this elastic piece. So I would definitely, if you have a larger head, I would say definitely go with a larger, you know, a larger square, because the larger the square, the larger the circle that you're going to create from that square. So my recommendation, I have, let me see, I think, oh, well, I do actually know the circumference of my head from the nape of my neck all the way to the top of my forehead is 22 and a half. And I cut this bonnet that I cut up here for demonstration was, I used 22 by 22 inch square. And then I did, my circle was 11 inches around. And again, I don't have any, you know, my hair is flat. I don't have a lot of hair, it's thin. And so that is what I did. So I would definitely say if you have a larger head that is more than 22 inches circumference, I would definitely go larger than 22. I would definitely say that you probably would be good. You know, I don't think you need to go more than 25 inch square. And then with a 25 inch square, you could do a 15 inch circumference from corner to corner. That would give you a 15 inch circle. And that should be more than enough to let you have some volume up here, but also give you enough room where you could, you know, be able to get that elastic around. So that is the rule for if you have a larger head, not just a lot of hair, because, you know, both of those two things are separate from each other. Thank you so much for the gifts. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So yeah, so that is how you account for a larger size head. Also how you account for if you have a lot more hair. So now you have your circle created. And what you're going to do next is you are going to cut your circle. Now, I'm not going to cut this fabric because I'm using this for something else, maybe even a bonnet, maybe something else. But you will basically cut from this edge to this edge. And when you do that, you will end up with a circle. When you open it up, you will end up with a circle just like this. And if you have, you know, we're using woven fabrics, so you may want to think about serging the edges of your fabric so that it doesn't fray, or using pinking shears also would work as well. I did serge this. You're going to follow those same steps with your lining or your inside fabric. And so there's two ways that you could do this. You could either use the same square method, you know, again, folding it like a hot dog, then folding it like a hamburger, and then taking the folded edge, using that as your, corner piece. The open edges should be towards the outside. The folded edge should be towards the bottom. And then you're going to make those marks all the way around. And then you're going to cut. You could do that same method with this, or you could literally lay a piece out and then lay your circle right on top of it and then cut around it. Either one of those will work because you already have your piece. Either one of those options will work so that you end up with 2 equal pieces. So before we move to the next step, I just want to see if anyone has any questions about, let me just move this to the side. If you have any questions about the first couple of steps. And this is pretty straightforward in terms of like creating the bonnet. The instructions and getting your pieces together is probably the biggest steps of it. But let me know if you have any questions. Also, let me know if you're sewing along. Have you ever made a bonnet before? Are you making one now, using this as an opportunity? This is definitely, if you're thinking about gifts that you could give away for Christmas now, or your holiday, whatever you might celebrate, now is the time to like be starting to work on those, like low pressure. If you're making them in September, just putting some aside. You could see that we are all in love with the Chandler fanny pack. And so look, this is my like third one. One of these are my third one because I have a couple of them. And I'm thinking about maybe giving a couple away for each time I make one. I'm like, oh, I like this one better than the other. And clearly I don't need 5 different Chandler fanny packs. So some of these are going to be gifts to somebody. I don't know who. But bonnets are also a great thing to give away for gifts. They could be an item in a gift package, and then you made it also. So, and then of course, you could do other things like embroider their name on it or use their favorite colors. If they're part of a sorority, you could use their sorority colors. If they're part of like their cheerleader or whatever. Or again, if they are a guy, we know guys are wearing styles that need to be preserved, like braids and things like that. They pay a lot of money for that. Or even if they have locks, they pay a lot of money to maintain those. And so they might go to bed with the bonnet. And so what a great way to get, use a fabric that they like, colors that they like, and make your favorite person, your favorite guy, a bonnet that they could wear to preserve their fresh locks or braids or whatever that they have. So this is a very gender neutral thing that you could do as well. So Miss Alethea said, I've made a bonnet before, but I'm sewing along. Yay! I'm happy to hear that. I cannot wait to see your bonnet. Okay, so I'm talking slow because I want to make sure that anybody that is sewing along can be doing these steps as well. And so that's why I'm kind of, slowing along, going slow and explaining things. One, to give people an opportunity to sew along, but 2, also to, make sure that we're covering all the different pieces that we need to cover. Hey, Anthony. So let me just check the comments on TikTok, see. Okay, so Leangela said, I'm working on bonnets now. Yes, I love that. Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Any tips that you have for us, Leangela, please drop them into the chat. We want to hear. I think that, if you sew, at some point, you are definitely making a bonnet. Hey, Dee, thank you so much for the gifts. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, okay, awesome. So next thing is we are going to take our circle. And again, if you are sewing along, don't worry, I'm not going to go too fast because I know I gave you a lot of steps, a lot of information in a short period. And so if you are doing this, it's like, okay, it doesn't take long, but I don't want to leave anybody behind. So with that said, I'm going to talk through the next step, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And so we have time to make sure that everybody's on board. So you're going to take your circle, right side facing up, and you're going to lay it down on your workspace. If you haven't had time, you might want to press it out or at least make sure that it's fairly unwrinkled. And then you're going to take your lining, or I don't even want to call it a lining because it is reversible. We are sewing this in a way that you could wear it literally on each side. So you're going to take your side that you want to, your right side. You're going to take your right side of your fabric and you are going to basically lay it right on top with right sides facing each other. So both of your circles should be laying with right sides facing each other. And then you are going to pin, but before you start pinning, you just want to take a random section. It doesn't even matter what section it is. And you want to take it and you want to mark. Take either a clip or a piece of chalk or something and just mark like a 2-inch opening, because we need to turn this right side out. We also need to leave a space that we can insert our elastic. So just mark, and I just created like a little chalk mark, 2-inch chalk mark, and it could really be smaller than that because this is really thin. And so you don't really need a huge space, but I go with 2 inches. If I can make it, easier for myself, I will. So, and then you are going to take your clips and you're going to start pinning all the way around. Okay. You're going to start pinning or clipping all the way around except for that opening. So I am literally taking my pins and I'm just pinning all the way around my bonnet. And this is just to make sure that everything stays, because the next thing that we are going to do is we're going to sew. And my recommendation is to like sew at 1/4 seam allowance. I don't think you need a whole lot of seam allowance for this. So I'm sewing at 1/4 seam allowance. It gives you a little bit of extra room in your bonnet. Not much, but a little bit. So, but it's not going to, if you do end up doing something, 3/8 or 5/8 or half, it's not going to make that much. You're not going to not have a bonnet that fits if you do decide to do something less. I mean, more than 1/4. We will be, once we iron this and turn it, we will be pressing it. So if you're somebody who like sews very quickly, I'm just telling you a little bit of the next step. But after that, I'm going to then talk about the 2 different ways that you can make this bonnet. So I'm going to make the one that I'm making today a little bit different than this one I made, but I'm going to talk about how I made this one. So as you can see, this one has a little ruffle, and the one that I'm making today will not have this little ruffle. But I'm going to talk you through both, because you might like that, or you might just want to know how to do both. So I'm doing 2 different ones. And I'm going to talk to you about how I did that one. And then I'm going to talk to you about this one. So the main thing when you are sewing your initial circle around is you just want to make sure that you are getting in all of your edges. You don't want to sew, like for me, I serge. So I'm doing 1/4, but I want to make sure also, I did a rolled hem when I serged. So my seams, my serged ends or my hem is really tight, but I also don't want it to show through, because again, this is reversible. So I don't want you to be seeing the serged edges at all. So that's the main thing, just to make sure that even if you do very little seam allowance, that you just do enough that your ends are fully going to be tucked in when you turn it inside out, or right side out, I should say. Hey, Monica, welcome. How are you? So I am really thinking hard. I don't know. I'm thinking. That's all I'm doing is thinking about, gifting some things that I'm making. Like one of the things that I want to do, that I'm really thinking hard about, is making the Ravens puffer jackets. I think it, you know, a lot of people made those puffer jackets last year, and I said, oh, I'm gonna make some, and I never did. But I carved out, I have some like a 2 week period where I'm not traveling, and I'm like, do I really want to, like, if I committed to it, that's what I'm gonna be doing. I'm gonna be making those puffer jackets. And so for those of you that know Bertha, who she is one of the people that organized Baltimore Frock Sale, she had did one made out of a blanket and sent me all the details on how she did it last year. I think she sent it to me last year or earlier this year. I think maybe it was around Super Bowl time. And I'm thinking, I think I'm going to do that because I just loved it. It looks so cute and it wasn't really that difficult. So I'm like, can I knock out like 3 or 4 of these? I don't know. I'm thinking. That's all I'm doing. I've only committed to thinking, not to making anything, just to thinking. Okay. So I have literally pinned all the way around. If you could see that, I've pinned all the way around. What I need to do for me, because I'll start sewing, and then before you know it, this whole thing is sewn up, is I made my marks, but I need something more than that. I need more than a mark. So I'm also going to take a clip, a red one that's supposed to mean stop. We'll see if it actually means stop when I start sewing. Let's look up for that. So I'm going to take 2 red clips and I am going to put them right where I made those marks at that I don't want to sew to, here we go, remind myself to stop and leave this part open. So I'm going to sew at 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around, and then I'm going to stop and I will show you what that looks like. So Monica said, I'm good. I'm still working on a dress from a month again. Look, sometimes it takes time. Let me tell you, I still have, so the other thing that I'm really dedicated to doing is something that, and I hate to even bring it up because I know I've said this like a million times, but it is finishing that blazer. I told you that I basically finished a blazer, but then I decided that I wanted to do 3/4 length sleeves. And so I talked to Auntie Carol, who told me how to modify it. It's not as simple as just cutting off the sleeve. I learned that from talking to her because that was definitely what I was going to do, just like chop it off. And then she explained to me why you do not just want to chop it off because it's not going to be tapered, blah, 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 blah. So of course I had to take apart the sleeve part to be able to do that. And so I'm in the process of sewing it back together. And so, it is a blazer, but I'm going to be wearing it as a dress. And so the other thing that I am doing is I'm putting a strip of elastic in to create ruching along the sleeve as well, just again to give it a little bit of a different look, because I feel like if I'm wearing something that's a little bit oversized, it's got to have some areas that are tight, and it's going to be a dress on me. I'm wearing it as a dress. But it's oversized. And so, although it may not be oversized anymore because your girl has gotten a little round, it might not be oversized anymore. But anyway, when I was trying it on a month or so ago, it was still oversized. So anyway, my goal is to finish that because we worked on that over 4 weeks. And I do have some pictures of what it looked like then, but I really wanted to kind of show then and now. So I got to finish that. I have to finish it. And I will finish it. Okay, so let me see. Monica said, Mimi G's ex-husband, can't remember his name, has a great tutorial for making puffer jackets. Yeah, so I have to look at that. If you find it, Monica, definitely let me know. Drop it, the link, if you find it. I would love that because I got everything. I have everything to make it except for the blankets. I got to get the blankets, which won't be hard to make because I'm in Maryland. Raven stuff is everywhere. Okay, so let us do the next step, which is to sew all the way around. Again, I'm doing 1/4 inch seam allowance, but you are not going to be, if you decide to do a half or 5/8, it's not, you're going to still be able to fit your bonnet. Do not worry. if you decide to do that. You will be okay. So we are going to get to doing this. And I add a little bit of tension onto mine too, just the fabric, that is, just to make sure it stays straight. And so remember that thing I told you about, like make sure, because I already see, I'm gonna have to go over this part a little bit. So I can already see where I sewed right into my seam. There we go. I'm like, what is happening? Okay. So I'm just sewing all the way around this circle slowly because I'm going so close to the edge. And I want to make sure that my serged end, it doesn't overlap with my serged end, because I want to be able to wear it on both sides, or whoever I potentially gift it to, I want them to be able to wear it on both sides. So what is the size of the circle? So my size of my circle is 11 inches, or I guess it's more, it's probably 22 inches, because when you are cutting the circle, let me just see, I'm going to tell you in a minute. When you are cutting the circle, that's when you are determining what size it is. So it's definitely more than 11 inches. It is probably 25 from one end to the other, because this is 18. This is probably 22. Yes, about 22. So let me just, Michelle, first of all, it's a great question. Let me just tell you about how I came up with the circle size. So when you are cutting your square, so I recommended in the instructions when I posted what you need, I recommended you have a square 24 by 24 inches. That will tend to cover just about every size that you want to do. Like that, you could cut a much smaller circle from that and do something for a child. So if you were going to cut, I would say you would be making a circle that would be, you would be cutting around a 10-inch circle. And so I'll explain what I mean by a 10-inch. If you were doing something for a child, if you're doing something for an adult, you would do something like 11, between, I would say 11 to 14 inches is what you would do. 14 is obviously going to give you a much larger bonnet, because it's going to give you a much larger circle. 10 is going to give you smaller. 11 is what this is. And again, when I wrap my hair around, whenever I do wrap it around, it's very flat. So it doesn't need a whole lot. I don't have a whole lot of hair, but this is my, my circumference of my head is 22.5 inches. And this is a bonnet that's based on a circle that is 11 inches when you are creating the circle, 22-inch circumference when you open it up. So let's just say this is our square, our 24 by 24 inch square. Your first thing is you're folding it like a hot dog, then you're folding it like a hamburger, because you're going to do 2 folds. And then, where's my square? Okay, here we go. Then you're going to have one end that is going to be nothing but folds. One end that is, all open. You're going to be able to open the layers. You're going to take that folded end. That's going to be the end that you do not cut. And this is the end that's going to be cut off when you create your circle. And so when I say create a circle that's 10 inches for a child or up to 14 inches, you're literally going to take your ruler. Number 1 is at this end, which is your folded end. And you are going to make marks. And let's just say that, you know, I'm doing 10. I'm going to make a mark at 10 here. Then I'm going to move my ruler, again, keeping this number 1 right here. And then I'm going to move my ruler again and then make another mark right here. And I'm going to do that literally all the way around till I get to the other end of my square, making marks where 10 is all the way around. And then you're going to literally connect all those dots. And you should have like a quarter of a circle when you connect all those dots. And then the next step will be to cut right along that circle. And then you will, when you open it up, you're going to end up with a full circle. And so when you ask about what is the size of the circle, when you are cutting the circle in this method, you are literally cutting the circle based on, you know, that measurement of 10 inches, 11 inches, 12 inches. 14 would be something that would be, you know, you have a larger circumference of your head, a lot of hair that you want to put in there because it's going to produce a big bonnet. Just for demonstration purposes, this is 11. I cut this based on 11 inches of this quarter circle. And the diameter, I'm going to guess, I didn't measure it fully out, but it's probably 22 inches if I had to guess what it was. So hopefully, Michelle, let me know if that answers your question, or did I just go like way overboard with that explanation? Hopefully I didn't, and it was helpful in some way. So let me know. I'm going to be looking to see what you say. Okay, there we go. Okay, so continuing to sew all the way around. I can get my little pins out. Yeah, again, I really feel like this is a really good, oh, what great, Michelle. I'm glad to hear that. I think this is a really good, like, it's not only is it beginner friendly, it's also fairly quick. So because of that, I do think it's a good gift if you have people that you could give it to. Even if, let's say, you have like you know, an assisted living community or a nursing home not far from you, this would be a great, like, something to drop off for people that live there. They might, you know, they go to the hairdressers, they get their hair done. And so this would be like a great gift, I think. And so before you throw all of that scrap fabric away, you know, this is something, even like if you have like a women's or men's shelter, again, great gift for adults and children. And it's a great way to get rid of all of your scrap fabrics. For those that didn't see, this is my scrap fabric. Some of these fabrics might look familiar to you. Chicago frocktails, the dress that I made for pattern hacking, Baltimore frocktails. What else is in here? Baltimore frocktails, the white party, birthday party dress. Like, yeah, it's a little bit of everything in there. But if it was more than just like a little scrap, you know, piece of scrap, I put it in there because I'm like, you never know what you might, you know, eyeglass case, little wallet. I don't know. But that is about 6 months worth of scraps in that bag, which I'm very proud that. So in addition to using my, you know, my existing fabrics that I have, which I have ordered a couple of fabrics this year, so I'm not going to, you know, not say I haven't. I have ordered a little bit of fabric, but nowhere near like what I was doing in 22, 23. I have been, you know, really doing really well. I'm very, very happy with Like I literally just did a little bit of cleaning, and I was so happy that some of my drawers were empty enough that I could take some of the fabric that I still have in a couple bins and put it into those drawers. So, but with that said, I still have fabric that's in bins and not in my cabinets that I bought. Okay, so I'm almost to the other end. When you get to the other end of your area that you're going to leave open, you do want to back stitch a little bit. So I'm going to back stitch and then forward stitch. And I'm going to do the same thing on the beginning side because I realized that I did not do that. I just want to take a look at this really quick. Oh yeah. So I'm going to show you really quickly. This is what I mean when I say, so I did this very narrow hem. You can't really tell, but you can see my serged edge right there. You can see that. Well, when I first started, I went really close to my serged end. And now you can see on the other side, you can see that little serged part. See how you can see that? So I'm going to go back in. See how you can see that, all that. So I'm going to go back in and just make it a little bit wider because I want to cover that up. I don't want that serged end to be showing at all. So I'm going to go a little bit wider. And cover that serge in, but I am going to back stitch. A little bit. And then I'm a back stitch. There we go. I think that got rid of that. And I'm just going to check the rest to make sure that I did not go into my serged areas at all. I don't want any of that showing when I turn this on the other side. Same thing on this side. Make sure. Came close a couple times, but I think I have managed. So it's not, so you'll, just so you can see what I mean, you could see here's all my serging and here is my stitch all the way around. There's my serging and then there's my stitch all around. So I just made sure that that stitch did not go into my serging thread, my serged edges, because I don't want it to show through. Michelle says, great gift. I plan to make several. Yes, I do think it is a great gift. And I think it's quick. So you could definitely make several and be like, here you go, put in a little gift bag, and then you're done. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to turn our bonnet inside out. And so you're going to find that little open area that you created, and you are literally going to turn your bonnet inside out. I'm going to take mine off, put it back up here, and I'm going to turn it inside out. So this is literally the last of this fabric that I have making this bonnet. I've pieced together pieces to make the wrap. So the wrap that we're gonna make on live today is actually gonna be made out of this fabric, and this is the last of that fabric. And I'm gonna piece it together literally while we're on this live. So here we go. This is our outside part of our bonnet. And so the next thing that we are going to be doing is pressing it out, because you want to make sure that, you know, those edges are really flat. And if you have something that you can use to like push it out, push the edges out, that probably would be great. I had used a pen, a pencil, or what I use to kind of just go in there and just take it. And they have, of course, other things that you could use. But I just took my pencil and just, because I had it right next to me, and I literally just took it, and let me just show you what I'm doing. I just took my pencil. Here's my pencil right here. You can see that. That's my pencil edge. And I just took it and went in and just, oh, let me show you. Just make sure you can see this. I just went in and go right along the edges and just like pushed it out like that. That's what I did. And I just did that all the way around. And then I pressed it. Once I did that, I pressed it. And so, of course, my iron just went off. But yeah, that just will help that it will lay straight, because after that, the very next thing that we are going to do is we're going to make our mark so that we can, so get your chalk out. We're going to make our mark so we can create our casing. And so while I'm waiting for the iron to heat up, let's talk about the different ways that we, oh, Lord, let me put this up. The different ways that we could create this casing, because when you create the casing, so if you want this ruffle effect, then you're going to do 2 stitches when you create your casing. So let me just show you. So you could see that I actually have created 2 separate stitches for my casing all the way around. And you're going to do the first stitch is going to be about 1 inch away from the edge, depending on how much ruffle that you want. So this is only 22 inches. So again, if you're doing something that is much, you know, if you're doing something that is, if you did like a 14 or larger circumference, then you could probably do more than 1 inch. But 1 inch gives you about like this ruffle, which I think is enough. But if you want something that's a little bit bigger, then you can make your, you can go in a little bit more. So like 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, and then you'll have a lot more at the edge to create a ruffle. So your first stitch, if you want something like this with the ruffle edge, you're going to need to create 2 rows of stitching to create your casing, 2 separate rows. So you're going to create the first one about 1 inch in, excuse me, at least 1 inch in. I would say probably no more than 2 inches. And then 1/4 to 1/2 inch from that, you're going to make another row of stitching around to create that casing. And so what that ultimately is going to do is when you put your elastic in, it's going to create this ruffle. It's going to create this ruffle effect all the way around. So that's how you do it. You can see it on the inside. You're creating this kind of separate channel that's about 1 inch in from the edge, and that's going to give you that little bit of a ruffle effect. Now, if you don't want the ruffle effect, then we're only creating one stitch all the way around, and you're going to do it about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, and I would say probably 1/2 inch from the edge of your fabric, so, or the edge of your circle. So if this is the end of your circle, so you're basically going to use the seam as the other end to create your casing. And so the one thing you want to, well, I'll go back and tell you that, but you want to make sure that you leave this opening, you leave a little bit opening when you're creating that circle for this edge so that you can get your elastic in. And so you'll create another circle about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. I would recommend probably 1/2 inch from the edge all the way around. And then you are going to then use that end, use that casing that is created when you create that additional stitch all the way around to create the band. And it's going to give you like a very flat, without this ruffle effect. When you are creating this one, you're creating the 2 casing. So, I mean, if you're creating the 2 strips so that you could have the ruffle effect. So one of the things I do want to tell you is that when you are creating the 2 rows, so one row is going to be close to the edge. And when you create that row, you need to make sure that you leave a little bit open. So that opening that you already create that we used to flip, you're going to leave that opening for the first row that you sew around. So you're going to start, sew all the way around, and then leave a little bit open so you can slide in. The second row, you're just going to sew all the way around. You're going to close it. You don't need to leave any opening. You just need to leave one little opening so that you can get the elastic in. So that's the other thing I want to tell you. So one, the inner stitch that you create for your casing, you can go all the way around. You don't need to leave any openings. The outer stitch, the one that's closest to the edge, you want to leave a little opening, an inch or 2, so that you can get your elastic in. And then once you get your elastic in, then we can go back and stitch that close. So I'll talk about that again, but first things first, let's press our bonnet so that it lays flat. So this is actually, believe it or not, this is my first time. Well, these are my first bonnets I've ever made. I haven't ever made a bonnet before. I've always wanted to make it, just never, the opportunity just never presented itself. So I never made it. So, but I do really like it. I love how easy and simple it is. And I love the fact that, like what I'm really thinking is I'm going to do like more of these combos with the hair ties, because I could totally see myself wearing something like, like this out when, especially when I want to rush out, but you want to still look, presentable. And I always see ladies with these really cute head coverings, and I'm like, oh, that's so nice. And now I'm like, if I find a great fabric, I can literally do my own, matching fabric to what I'm wearing. So all right, I feel like I have pressed this out about as much as it can be pressed. I feel like this is okay. It looked like it was wet, but it's just flat pressed. All right, so that is done. That is pressed out. And the next thing you're going to do is take and there's lots of ways. This is not the perfect way, but there's lots of ways. I feel like this is an easy way to create your lines. Now you can use your sewing machine. Your sewing machine has little measurements, and you can definitely use your sewing machine to help you create a consistent line all the way around, or you can fold it in half and take your ruler and do the same thing that we did before, but this time you can even fold it in quarters too, but I feel like folding in half is sufficient. And then just mark 1/2. I recommend 1/2. I'll say 1/2, 1/4, but I recommend 1/2 from the end. Or again, if you're going to be creating the ruffle effect, you want to go 1 inch from the edge to create your first stitch all the way around. So you want to draw a line, a half circle, and then turn it over and do it the other side, leaving an opening 1 inch from the edge. And then you're going to create a 1/2 inch above that one. You're going to create another line. So I am creating one that does not have the ruffle. So I'm doing a 1/2 inch from the edge all the way around. And what I'm doing is just creating. And again, you don't have to do this step. You could do this on your sewing machine. Your sewing machine has little, measuring things that you can use to know when you get to a 1/2 inch so you can consistently sew. But I'm also just giving you another way that you can mark it. And I'll show you what I'm doing in a minute. But I'm literally just, let me just, I can put this down so you can see. There we go. And I think you can see. So I'm literally just taking this and making a mark a 1/2 inch all the way around, which is more than enough. And then I will connect those dots. And this is normally, I would just do this right on my sewing machine, but I want to, you know, give people another option of way that you could sew it. And this way, marking this marks ahead of time is probably really good when you're creating the version that has the ruffle, because you have to do 2. And so then I'm just going to take my chalk and connect all those lines. And then I will flip it over and do the exact same thing on the other side. And doesn't have to be perfect, because all of this chalk will come off when I wash it. But let me just show you so you could see. Can you see that little mark? So that's like a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to use that. That's going to become my casing. And again, you do have to remember, like, here's my opening. So I'm going to use these 2 red clips to tell me, like, do not stitch over your opening. So I'm putting those little clips on there. Then I'm turning it right to the other side, and I'm doing exactly the same thing. Just taking my ruler. Hey, Chris, good night. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you. So then I'm going to take my ruler and literally do the exact same thing on the other side, marking a 1/2 inch in. And again, this version that I'm creating is one that's not going to have the ruffle. This is going to be, so because it's not going to have the ruffle, it's going to be a little bit bigger than the one that does have the ruffle. Even though these circles are exactly the same size. All right. So now I'm just connecting my dots all the way around. All right. And so once I do that, I have all of my circle done. And now I'm going to go right to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew all the way around. Again, I'm doing a 1/2 inch from the edge, and then the rest will be my seam allowance. I mean, I'm sorry, will be my casing. So it will be my casing that I will use. There we go. It's going to be my casing that I'm going to use to insert my elastic. And so here we go. I'm going to do a little quick back stitch, reinforcement. And I will tell you that having the line on does make it easier, or for you to sew faster, because you just look at the line and you don't have to be really paying attention to where your fabric is lining up on the, you know, on the measuring part of your sewing machine. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's not going to be like saving me a ton of time, but I noticed that it is faster. Because I did my other one the other way, where I did have to really pay attention to make sure I didn't get too small or too large, for that matter. Also, because you are sewing this on the outside of your garment, you will be able to see this stitch to some extent. So you do want to make sure that your bobbin thread and your top thread is some complementary color. Sometimes when we're sewing and we're not top stitching, we could forget that, hey, this is going to be showing. And so you do want to make sure that, because you will be able to see that stitch. Almost there. I can see my clips letting me know, like, hey, you're to that point. So I am going to create a little bit of a back stitch. Okay. And again, if you are doing the one with the ruffle, you have to do both of your stitches. So you might still be sewing a little bit, but I have mine done and I have my little opening that I'm going to be able to put my casing, that I'm going to be able to put my stitch in. And actually, you know, now that I think about it, you can probably go ahead and finish that stitch around, because you're going to still have this opening because you're leaving this part open. So your stitch that you are creating to create the casing, when you're doing the edge that doesn't have a ruffle, that second stitch, you can go ahead and complete that, because it's just like similar to the second stitch that you would do if you were doing the ruffle. That second stitch is fully completed. So you could complete that. It doesn't have to be fully open, because you're going to still have the bottom part open. So I am going to go ahead and complete my second stitch. But before I do that, I just realized that I sewed part of my opening. It was folded in there and I didn't realize it. So I have to unstitch, just a little piece of it was sewn in. And I don't want it to be, it's not a huge deal. I guess I could just go ahead and sew it, but it makes my bonnet a little bit smaller. So I'm going to unfold it. And this is why it's so good to, you know, use that pencil or whatever you're doing to, whatever you use to push out all your edges. Because I didn't do that. I mean, I did it, but I missed this part. The very beginning, I didn't do it and it folded in. And it's not a big deal, but I'm like, it doesn't take but seconds to push it out. See, that made a huge difference right there. So you gotta make sure you do it all the way around, even close to where your opening is. And that's why I didn't do it where the opening is, and it folded in. So I'm just taking a little piece of it. And then I'm going to go in with this pencil, and you don't have to use pencil. You can definitely use other things, but see, I'm going in and creating that piece. There we go. All right, I'm doing this a little bit more. The type A person in me is like, make it right, Fix it all the way. This is the kind of stuff I do when I'm not online. Live, I'm like, fix it right. But because this doesn't take so long, I'm taking a little bit of time. Okay, anybody that's sewing along, or do you have any questions? All right, there we go. I think we're good to go. Look at that. See, that makes a huge difference. Not huge, but I feel better about it. I feel better about it. All right, and then I'm just gonna press this just like that. To get that little bit of extra room. It's not much of a difference, but I just press this. There we go. Not a big difference, but I like that it's more open now. All right, so with that, I am now going in and stitching this all the way around. Just doing a start and back stitch a little bit. And I made mine a 1/2 inch is what I made mine for this. Okay, so my complete circle is done. I did that other little part. I closed it all the way around. And now I'm going to take my elastic and I'm going to start with the back of my neck. And again, I know what mine is because I made it for the other one, but I'm putting it down the back of my neck, going around to the front. Ooh. And then I'm going to take about 1 inch off from there. Because again, you want it to be, give a little bit. It's not snug, but it's not tight either. I mean, it's not loose either. So here's my elastic. And I am now going to take your 2 safety pins that you have. You're going to put one. Try and get my other one out. You're going to take 1 safety pin, put it on one end. And you're going to pin it to the opening. Just like to hold it. And then you're going to take your other safety pin. You're going to put it on the other end. And you're going to use this end to fish it through. Thank you, Lavette. Thank you. Look, this is my fabric. Last little bit of this fabric. I love this fabric. I made several things. I think I had like 5 or 6 yards of it total. I've made several things out of this. This is the last little bit. So when you are fishing through your elastic, you just want to make sure you hold it straight out so that it's not twisted, because it will be twisted in your bonnet. So you want to make sure that it is not twisted, that it's going to lay nice and flat. And I'm just pushing mine through. Again, this is the one, I'm making the one that doesn't have the ruffle edge. But if you are making the one that does have the ruffle edge, you will literally be doing the exact same step. You just will have a little bit of more seam allowance, like 1 inch. or more, depending on what you decided was right for your ruffles. And you'll just be pushing this through. So I'm just pushing this through. And when we get it all the way through, we will then be laying them over top of each other and then stitching them together, the pieces of elastic. And then we will be able to close up our opening of our bonnet. And then your bonnet is pretty much complete at that point. Well, you want to adjust your, your elastic so that it's all evenly spread throughout the bonnet. But you could see how literally it's finished all the way around. So you could wear it on both sides. And so then the next thing that we're going to do really quickly is we are going to, after we finish this, we're going to make our head wrap, which you see this one. So I have this one that I made already. And then we're making the other one in that other fabric. And that's optional. Doesn't take long at all. You may not wish to have a head wrap to go over your bonnet or even wear separately. So this head wrap that I did right here is 70, I think it's 72 inches. The one that I'm doing today, I think it's going to be 100 inches. Again, I used a whole bunch of pieces. You'll see because I'm going to be sewing them together right here. It's not a whole bunch of pieces, but in fact, this one I think I sewed together like 5 separate pieces on both, well, 5 separate pieces of this fabric, and then I think I did 2 or 3 of the black to make that strip. Today I think I have 2 of the print fabric, and I think I have just 2 of the black to make the total inches. Okay, I'm almost there. Almost there. So the longer your head wrap, I think the more options you have of things that you could do, with it. Okay, we are almost there. Last little bit. Thank you so much for all the gifts. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, here we go. So you could see what I mean, that it doesn't have any, the elastic is right there at the end. But before we start, kind of distributing all of the elastic throughout, we are going to unpin this other end and take the pins out of both pieces. Again, make sure that they're not twisted. And we're going to lay them literally on top of each other like this. One on top of the other. And then we are going to go to our sewing machine and stitch them down. So the smaller the elastic, the harder it is to do it, but it's not impossible. So I'm stitching them down right now. I'm going to go back. I usually create like 2 rows. And I go back and forth on each row a couple times. All right, 1. And now I'm going to do the second row. And there we go. So I have my pieces all done. And now I'm going to redistribute the elastic. And even before I do all of the redistributing, I'm going to take and I'm going to close up my piece. my opening, and I'm doing that mine on the sewing machine. I'm just going right to the edge and just doing a very narrow hem. But you could close, there's a variety of ways that you can close it, that you know, you could do a blind stitch, that way you don't even really see it. I'm not great at that, so I'm just doing, it's a small area, so I'm just doing a very small hem right there with the edge, and then back stitch a little bit. Okay, and there we go. And now I'm going to make sure that I distribute all my elastic all the way around. And as you can see, this one is a little bit bigger because it does not have, you know, the ruffle at the end. I got a little piece of thread right here and cut off. There we go. But here it is. So that is this. You know, it's definitely, I could feel how it is a little bit bigger, but you could see it's no ruffle. There's no ruffle at the end. The elastic is literally at the end of the bonnet. So there is that. Different from this one that has the little ruffle at the end, which you could make bigger. And if you would like to make it bigger, you just want to make sure that you start, you know, this is an inch. You could start with 1.5 inches. You could do 2 inches and you will have a bigger ruffle. But you also want to make sure that you know, you account for it. You definitely will have room to do that. Like I said, this was an 11 inch or 22 inch circumference. So 1 inch gave me plenty of room. If I wanted to make it bigger, like 2 inches, I would probably go for a 12 or 13 inch just to give me probably that same sizing. So that is the bonnet, the two different types, the one with the ruffle edge and the one without. And then the last thing that we are going to do, and this is like an optional add-on, again, as I had showed you earlier, that you can use the head wrap with it, is that we are going to create a head wrap. So what I had said is that you can get I think you need at least 70, 72, 73 inches in order to have enough to go around. The larger circumference at your head, the more that you will need to go around a couple times. So like I said, this is actually 5 inches wide, 72 inches long. The one I'm doing now is going to be 4 inches wide, but it goes around. Again, I'm not good at tying them, but you get the point. It goes around like 2.5 times. Like if I would have made it just a little bit longer, I probably would have had enough to do like a little tie right here. But instead, your girl will be doing a tuck instead. So we're going to make this. This is, again, 72 inches. It would go, you could wear it without your bonnet, but you could also wear it with your bonnet. It definitely makes for a different look. So I believe this is going to be like 100 yards is what I believe it is going to be. It is 4 inches wide. So the first thing that I'm going to do, again, I made some scraps, 2 scraps. I am going to put them right sides together, and I am going to make a stitch so I can make one complete piece of fabric. So I'm doing that right now. Traditionally, I would have serged these two, but I didn't have time to serge them. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press that seam allowance open because I do want it to lay flat when I put it together. So I'm just going to take my iron and I'm going to press my seam allowance open. You don't have to do this part. The next part that I'm going to tell, well, I'm also going to, I'm going to create a little slant on the edge. I feel like it makes it easier for tucking. So, oh, I have it tucked in here, but my edges are slanted at the ends. And I think it makes it easier to kind of tuck them in as opposed to having the square edge. You don't have to do that, but definitely something I'm doing. So I press my seam open, and now I'm going to take my black pieces, and I actually have 3 of those, and I'm going to put them right sides together. Yes, okay. And I'm going to stitch them, and then I will also press those open. This is what I mean by, you know, using your scraps. Like, I said, so this fabric, I literally don't have anything left of this fabric either. Now, this was the last little bit that I had. So I'm gonna finger press this open, and then I'm gonna take my iron and I'm gonna give it like a little bit, because I'm nervous about this iron kind of burning through this silky fabric. I guess I should use a cover to cover it a little bit, but I want it to lay flat so that when I create my, when I combine them, pray for me, I don't want to get burnt. Okay, there we go. All right, so that's that piece. And now I'm gonna do the same thing on this end. Right side to right side. Okay, here we go. One of these sides is shinier than the other. That's how I'm able to tell. One. And now I'm going to sew these 2 pieces together. Here we go. And a little bit of back stitch. And then I'm going to press this open as well. Press this part open. And I'm excited to see what I can do with this one. Okay, so they're now pressed open. And now I have both of my strips, and this one I actually think might be a little bit longer, so I'll probably be cutting some of this off. Hi, Quana, welcome. So now I'm gonna lay, we finished making our bonnets. Oh, this is a head wrap that I have on, so now we are making a head wrap. Good night. Thank you, Miss Alethea. I cannot wait to see your bonnet. Please tag me when you post it. I'm excited to see it. I'm sure I can't wait to see what fabric that you have used. So we're gonna now take our right side, we're gonna take our fabric and our lining. Again, this is also reversible. And we are going to put them right sides together. And we are now going to pin or clip. And I almost feel like it'll be easier for me to clip this because it's so long. All the way around. And we are going to, before we sew it, we're actually going to, once we get everything clipped together, we are going to cut our edges on a slant. So what you see me doing right now is you see me, let's see. You see me just clipping these. And this is really super easy to make. It is not difficult at all to do. So you just want to make sure you have a really good flat surface, because you want to make sure that all of your pieces are lined up. Because when you do that cut, you don't want to have it like not measure up. So I have already pressed these all out flat before I even sewed them. So they are lining up really well. And then once we line everything up, let me just see. There we go. I'm just double checking, making sure everything's lined up. I'm putting clips on both sides just so you don't have no problems. Oops, that broke. Again, just lining them up. Then we're going to just sew all the way around. But, well, before we sew all the way around, getting ahead of myself, we're going to cut our edges on a slant. Again, this is optional. I think the ones that I've seen when I was like researching, they all had like a little bit of a slant on the end. And I think it just, again, makes it easier for you to tuck it in. But I also saw some people put like a button on the end or a snap on the end so that they could snap. So in that case, you may not want to have it on a slant. So those are some other options that you have. Okay, I'm almost to the end, last little bit. Just making sure it's laying out flat. My seam allowances are open. My raw edges are lined up. Now I'm to the very end, so if you make this bonnet, please make sure that you tag me. I would love to be able to see it. If you make a hair wrap to go over top of your bonnet, or you just make the hair wrap, tag me. I want to see it. I started to go out and buy some styrofoam heads. Have you all ever had those? If you have wigs, you probably have them. I had one. I don't know what I did with it. But, so see, I have a little piece left already. So I guess one is 100 inches and one is less than 100 inches. If I wasn't on live, I'd go find me another scrap to add to this black piece. But I am on live, so we're not going to be doing that today. So, all right, so I got everything lined up. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to create a slant on both ends. So I'm going to take a slant, make a slant that is, let me just press this. There we go. I just want it. So I'm going to take this. This is the edge of my one end. Take my ruler right here. And I'm just going to go down like 5 inches and mark. And then I'm going to go from that corner to the edge. And I'm going to make a slant. And you could do less than 5 inches. So I'm going to slant just like that. One little slant. Then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut cut that slant off. Take my clip and put it right on that edge. And now I'm going to literally do the exact same thing on the other end. See, this one I'm talking about. Look at that. We're going to bring that this way. So I feel like a little piece of it got a little wrinkled, not as flat. Not a big deal, but. All right, here we go. I'm just, because there was like a little bubble in there, I'm just straightening it out before I cut this end. Okay. Now, I'm going to do the same thing on this end. Take my ruler, mark about 5 inches down. Here's my chalk. Here we go. Mark about 5 inches down. And then I'm going to go right to the edge and mark that. And then I'm going to cut it so that I have a slant on this end as well. You can make it a little less. You could do 4, 3. There is no wrong way. Now, before you start cutting all the way around, you do want to make sure that you leave an opening so that you can turn. I'm going to leave my opening at one end because it's fairly wide. It's easier to turn. So I just leave it at one end. So I'm putting a lot of clips on this end because this is going to be the end that I'm going to leave open. And I'm going to start sewing. Let's see. Here we go. So we're literally going to sew all the way around in one, I guess a square, not a circle. And I'm sewing mine with, I think I did 3/8 of an inch seam allowance is what I did because I didn't want to have to cut anything extra off. But you just want to make sure that, again, I had serged the other one, but I didn't serge this one. So I'm going to do like 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So basically right at the edge of my foot. And I'm going to do that all the way around. And then I'm going to turn it. And again, I feel like this is like a perfect complement to wear with or without your head wrap. Something easy to make that you could wear to complement your clothes. Whether your hair is fixed the way you want it or it's not, it's something that you can. So I hope that you, if you haven't already made one before, I hope that you think about making one, you know, with your bonnet. It is definitely, although we've taken more time today, I promise you that it is a very quick sew. You could probably do them both in an hour or less. Without a doubt, you definitely could. There are some, when I was researching bonnets, there are some other kinds of bonnets that I also saw people make. Like, have you ever seen the bonnet that was made? I gotta take this off because I'm getting hot. Ah, that light, I think the light on me is making me hot. I always get hot when I'm sewing. My hair starts to like frizz up because the humidity. I don't know what it is. Is it just me, or do y'all also like start getting warm? But anyway, I saw like a couple of different bonnets. One of the bonnets that I saw made, which I started to do today, but I was like, look, this don't get too crazy. But it was made, the person made it with a square, a rectangle, instead of a circle. And it was a bonnet that had ruffles on the end. And it had a lot more like ruffles. They almost looked like it could have been like a flower, you know, when she put the bonnet on. They kind of gradually went that way. So I thought it was super cute. Definitely something that I might try with this. And I'm trying to think, I feel like I got to look at what the measurements were that she used to create that bonnet. But it was very cute. Very, very cute. All right, we are almost done. One end. Almost done one end of the head wrap. Okay, we are getting to the end right now. Just making sure those raw edges are lined up. Getting down, and then I'm going to turn right here, lift my foot up, come down. Going right to the end. Put my foot down. I mean, my needle down, sorry. And then doing again 3/8 of an inch. And you want to just make sure that, you know, again, both of your fabrics are laying flat, so you don't end up with like any bubbling or anything like that on your fabric. Ooh. Hey, Julian. So I put a poll on my community tab on YouTube asking people about like the different kinds of presser feet that they use. And it was really interesting, like what people said in terms of what they thought would be most helpful. So I just recently got the elasticator. Julian, do you have the elasticator foot? I just got the elasticator foot. And I'm going to tell you my motivation. Well, one, I like different feet. Anything that's going to make it easier. Like, for example, I'm working on a bubble skirt right now, doing it like in between. And in my heart, I knew that I should have used my ruffle foot. In my heart, I knew. Like, I was like, you need to use the ruffle foot. But no, I decided I'm going to manually gather. I don't mean no harm. I ain't doing that ever again. never again. Not only I'm never doing it. That was just, it would have been so much neater, easier, everything. And I mean, it's just not for me. I don't have nothing against it, but it's not for me. So my point in even raising that example is that I like any foot that's going to make my work easier is the foot that I love. And what made me feel like, oh, you got to get the elasticator foot was making the dress that I made, the ruffle dress that I made for Frock Tales. I was like, I made this foot and I made this dress with all these ruffles, handmade all the ruffles with elastic, but having to hand fish all of those pieces of ruffles in when I could have literally used my sewing machine. My serger is a foot that goes on my, no, I think it actually goes on my cover stitch machine. But never again. I'm like, now whenever I have to put elastic in a waistband or something like that, I am using that foot. Why do I feel like it's probably a piece of hair on me? Oh, there it is. So anyway, my ruffle foot is like my favorite foot, but I also, have you all heard of the bias binder foots? I use a lot of bias tape. I like that to finish things. And so they have a foot that puts bias on. And that's going to be one of my next feet purchases. So anybody use any of those kinds of feet? They are not specific to Bernina. The ruffle foot is for other machines. They have a bias binding foot for other machines too. I just looked it up just so I could be familiar with it. And they do have them. Okay, so we are at the end of the other one, and I am now putting my foot down. And I'm just going to do a quick turn. I'm leaving this end for the most part open, but I do want to just close this corner. And I'm just going to do a quick back stitch. And then I'm also going to finish this end. For some reason, it did not sew it all the way to the end. So I want to do that. So that what I have to close up is not that much. Okay, and now I'm going to turn it. Again, I'm leaving this end open for the most part, but I'm just leaving a large part of it open, not the whole thing. I'm getting rid of the corners. I'm doing the corners so I can cut them off. All right, there we go. Back stitch. Okay. So I have sewn all the way around, and now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to clip off the edges of this so that the points will come out really straight. And then the only other thing I am going to do is, so you could see this where this was a little bit, I must have, when I was cutting these strips, this one is a little bit larger than 4 inches. So for some parts of it. So I'm literally going to just take my scissors before I turn it because I don't want all that bulk. And I'm just going to cut off that extra. I'm just going to cut that off. So I didn't have to do that with my other one because I guess I did a better job of cutting the strips. This one, I think I was rushing because I knew I was running out of time. So I'm just cutting off this extra. I think it'll lay flat either way because it's pretty thin fabric. But the type AME will not allow me to just turn it with this extra hanging off. Almost done, I think. I was way off on this. My ruler must have been slanted. Because look at all this. So that is really, after we turn this, we're going to press it. And then you just have to close up your end, which I'm not going to do because I think I'm going to come back and serge all this. I don't have my serger out, so I have to take it out. But after, I'm going to turn it. I'm going to turn it for today, so you could see it, what it looks like on after we press it. But then I will close I'm going to turn it right back on the other side and serge this whole thing all the way around. That way it will last. I don't have to worry about it fraying or anything like that, coming apart, because both of these are woven fabric, so they will eventually fray. Okay, and then on this end, I'm just cutting off the edge so that it will turn really well. Okay, so now we've cut all that off, and I am literally going to turn it. So this one is a little bit smaller. You could probably tell that. That's 5 inches. This is 4 inches, so it's a little bit smaller, but still not too small. So Quana, you said you have not tried any of those, but you will look into it. I definitely recommend it. Like if you sew, like for example, if you do anything with ruffles regularly, ruffle foot is your friend. It's so much easier. I think your ruffles look more, I'm not gonna say better, because obviously you can make great ruffles with the gathering, basting stitch method of creating gathers. But I feel like it's much easier, and your ruffles are more evenly distributed. The elasticator foot, I cannot wait to use because it's just easier to put elastic in. Now it will require me, if it's using my cover stitch machine, it will require me to take out one more machine. But I bought this cover stitch machine and I've literally have not used it since I got it. I have not used it. So the fact that I haven't used it since I got it says a lot. Like I need to use it for sure. So I've got about 50% turned, maybe a little more turned. I'm literally pushing it in. It's not difficult to turn, it's just very long, as you can see. Very, very long. Almost done. I think once I get it all the way in, I should be able to just pull it the rest of the way through. Here we go. Open this back up. I got it like 60% of the way turned. All right, 70%. Okay, 80% turned. Okay, and there we go, the last little piece, last little bit. All right, we got it pretty much turned. I'm just pulling out those little edge, the little corner. All right. So now we're just gonna press it, and then I'm gonna put it on, wrap it around just so you could get a feel for how this one is, this longer one is different from the other one. I'm not gonna spend too much time because like I said, I am gonna turn it back wrong side out so I can serge it before I close it up completely, but I do wanna give you a feel for how it's gonna look. Okay. Pressing it makes all the difference. It looks so much better when it's all pressed out. So let's press it. See, I need that little edge turned. I am just going to pick this little edge out. Because it's bothering me. All right, there we go. Oh yeah, look at that. It's something about pressing it that just makes it so nice. Looks so good. So I made that original one 5 inches, even though when I read 3 to 4 inches was good for a head wrap. But I was like, that's little. I definitely feel like you don't need 5 inches. I think this one is going to probably give us exactly what we need. All right. And you can't even really tell where I sewed the pieces together because this fabric is so busy. So I truly was able to take advantage of the scraps with this. Oops. All right, here we go. Here we go. Almost there. Last little bit to press. Last little piece. Last bit. Okay. This time for real. Last bit. Hi, Nicole. Welcome. Thank you for joining and happy Friday. We are at the very last bit of sewing a head wrap to go with the bonnets that we made. This goes right in our series of focusing on, scrap busters, things that we could do with our scraps. And this is definitely something that you can do with your scraps, without a doubt. I'm just folding this piece in. I'm gonna press it, and then we're gonna try it on. All right, here we go. So the last step that you would technically do is you would either do a blind stitch or just stitch straight down this edge to close it up. Like I said before, I'm not doing that because I want to open it back up so that I could serge the ends. This is 100 inches, so it's much longer, not much, 30 inches longer than the other. Probably because I took the last 5 inches off and slanted, so probably 90 something inches or 89 or something like that. So anyway, here's your head wrap, and I could already see how it's going to go on, you know, more times, a little differently. I'm not great at wrapping, you know, putting head wraps on, but you could see that that extra 30 yards goes a long way in terms of the wrap, you know. So this is, you know, again, another way you could wear it. You could pin it. The slanted edges makes it easier to tuck. So I would put it in. Let's see. Definitely makes it easier to tuck it, but you can kind of get a feel. So this is how it is if you were to wear the head wrap just by itself. Again, this is 100 inches, 4 inches wide. Probably by the time you by the time you sew it, it's like 3.5 inches. By the time you subtract your seam allowance. So that's that. And then let me just show you one more time what it looks like with the bonnet. So I'm gonna use the bonnet that doesn't have all the ruffles on the end. So we created 2 bonnets today, one that has a ruffled end and one that doesn't. I think you could wear both of them with the head wrap. So this one, thank you. So this one is a shorter head wrap. It's wider in that it's 5 inches, but it's shorter in that it's only 70. I think it's like 72, probably less because I took 5 inches off with but you could, you know, again, wrap it. There's ways that you could style it for sure. And then tuck these pieces in. I did really good. I watched a tutorial and did it, followed the instructions and did it. And it looks so cute. This is not it, but just know that there are ways that you could do it, that you put it on and you can make it with your bonnet. So this is the bonnet at the top and then the head wrap around it, the matching head wrap around it. So you have options, things that you can do when you create both the head wrap and the bonnet, you know, coordinating colors. If you wanted something to wear to sleep at night, you could definitely do both of these. The wrap gives you like that little bit of extra. You know, if you have like a silk wrap that you really want to lay flat, especially if you don't want to wear hair clips that would make little indentations in your hair, you would definitely want something like the head wrap to kind of reinforce what the bonnet does. Or like I said, I would wear this outside. Like I would wear this with the outfit. I actually had the dress in the top. I would wear this with that. So you could definitely put the head wrap on. It's different than just having the separate bonnet, which obviously I wouldn't wear this outside, just the bonnet I wouldn't wear, but I would wear it with the head wrap. So if I like woke up and I'm like, oh, I got to hurry up and go to the store, I would totally throw this on and make it, you know, make a little something out of it and make it look really cute and then go out to the store. Like I would totally do that. So anyway, I hope that you all, thank you, Frida. Thank you so much. I hope that you do try to make the bonnet. I know that many of you probably have made bonnets before, but I hope that you make it. If you do make it, please tag me. I hope that you make the head wrap too to go with the bonnet. Consider adding a snap to the end because that's another thing I saw. Or people have done like a little button with a little hole, like did a buttonhole and did a button, you know, to kind of clip it. So that's the other thing that I have seen people do. So definitely RVBs, please tag me. I want to see Nicole. You definitely look. You say your scraps don't match, but that's fashion. That's right. Definitely look. Let me show y'all. This is my scrap bag, and I'm definitely 6 months worth of scraps. I'm definitely gonna figure it out. I put scraps together to make this. Like y'all saw me sew things together to make this one because I ran out of this. So I bought, I think 6 yards of each of these, and I have used every bit of that 6 yards. So when we talk about, sustainability, we talk about, scrap busters, this is kind of what it looks like. So I hope that you all will think about what's in your scrap bag and think about sewing pieces of fabrics together like you saw me do here today. This is a great project to be able to do that. But most importantly, try it, see if it works. Great gifts, great way to, help the environment at the same time. And tag me if you do decide to make it, because I really want to see like what you do, how you do it. So with that, next week we are doing another scrap buster. We are making a reversible t-shirt. So in fact, this is one of the t-shirts that I made, knit, reversible. You can wear it on both sides. Both sides are black. So, but this is what we're making next week. Reversible t-shirt, also really quick sew. So there is no pattern. So I will be putting out the instructions of what you need, which really you don't need that much because you need fabric. Really, that's what you need. And not that much fabric at that. So stay tuned, look for that. I will see you all next Friday. And hope you all come back and sew along. Thank you and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, everyone.